what made you realize that dropshipping wasn't going to be long-term? And then 2, why did you decide to do a different business instead of doubling down on FBA?
Yeah, so towards the end, it felt like we were going in circles. Like we would just get a notification from Amazon that they changed some policy, and then we would have to spend months fixing it, and then we'd get some other notification, and it just felt like we weren't building the business anymore. We had kind of peaked. We were just kind of adjusting to what Amazon sent us. Throw in some suspensions here or there that luckily we got resolved, but we kind of saw the downside of having all your eggs in one basket depending on Amazon. And keep in mind too, we weren't selling our own products. We didn't have any patents. We weren't building anything. So a lot of these manufacturers slowly realized, hey, we don't need Nathan Hirsch. We can just start our own Amazon store. We can just do our own e-commerce business. So being the middleman was great for a while, and it was a good cash cow and a great entrepreneurial experience. But unless we were going to come up with our own baby products or start making them or build our own e-commerce store or something like that, there really wasn't that much room to grow on the dropshipping side. So that kind of gave us the idea to kind of go in a different direction.
E-commerce is the greatest business opportunity of our generation.
What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Ecom Unlimited podcast. It's your boy Kaj, here with my co-host Josh.
What's going on, everybody?
And today we have on a guest that I am very excited to interview, Nathan Hirsch.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep. So Nathan is an entrepreneur in the truest sense of the word. He's been involved in multiple businesses. He's sold on Amazon. He currently owns Ecombalance, and I believe a couple other businesses as well. Ecombalance is the company that we use for bookkeeping for our e-commerce business. But before we get into that, Nathan, if you can just give us a quick background on who you are and your career experience.
Yeah, so I'm a longtime entrepreneur. I've never had a real job. I started buying and selling textbooks out of my college dorm room to make some side money my sophomore year of college, and created a little affiliate program, had lines out my door of people trying to sell me their books, competing with the school bookstore, and eventually got a cease and desist letter from my college telling me to knock it off and stop competing with them. So that was my first glimpse into being an entrepreneur. And my parents are both teachers, so I didn't want to get kicked out of school. So I stopped selling textbooks, but I had this Amazon account that I was selling all these books on, and I started just experimenting with what else I could sell on Amazon. And this was 2008, 2009. Amazon was not the Amazon of today. They were just bursting onto the scenes. They were more of a bookstore. And I started experimenting with stuff I was familiar with, like video games, sporting equipment, computers, and just through trial and error, I eventually came across baby products and toys. It was a high demand. Parents buy anything for their kids, high margins, easy to ship, easy to return. And I started building relationships with all these US manufacturers of these baby products. At the time, they didn't know anything about e-commerce, and I didn't know anything about making baby products. So it was a good partnership. I was drop shipping before I even knew the word drop shipping, where they would keep my credit card on file. They would ship it to my customers. I could mark it up whatever I want. And that was the business. And before I knew it, I was running a pretty large Amazon business out of my college dorm room. I think we maxed out at $5-6 million a year. And as this business grew, I just learned a lot about hiring college kids and how unreliable they were. I was 20. Hiring adults seemed very scary. So a buddy of mine introduced me to my first virtual assistant out of the Philippines, and this really changed my life. I built a VA army to handle everything from customer service to inventory to repricing. There wasn't a lot of automated software back then. And that really became my Amazon business, just run by virtual assistants. And fast forward, that gave me the idea to start a marketplace for virtual assistants, for Amazon sellers to hire great virtual assistants. That became FreeUp that we eventually exited, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But that was kind of how I got into being an entrepreneur and an Amazon seller, just buying and selling books and a lot of trial and error.
So you said you did about $5 to $6 million from your dorm room drop shipping stuff from baby manufacturers, baby product manufacturers.
I mean, we sold about 25 million total, but our best year was like 5-6 million. We did it for 6, 7, 8 years. Towards the end of it, drop shipping got harder.
Got it. And so when you were still in college and doing that model, was that did you kind of reach that 5 to 6 million per year revenue range before you discovered hiring virtual assistants, and that was just all you and your college buddies?
No. I mean, we were doing, I don't know the exact numbers, probably 500,000 plus that first year. And my first busy season came around and it was just me. I had no one else. And I got to my first busy season, Black Friday. I don't think Cyber Monday was a thing yet. And I just got destroyed. I was working 20 hours a day. My social life was gone. I know my grades were terrible. Like I just did everything possible to try to keep this business alive, just working nonstop. And when I finally made it through to January, I said, okay, I can never let that happen again. I need to start hiring people. And I even remember talking to a CPA because my parents are like, all right, you got to pay taxes. And I met with him and he's like, when are you going to hire your first person? And I kind of like laughed him off. Like, why would I do that? That's money out of my pocket. They're going to steal my ideas. They're going to hurt my business. And then that busy season, I learned a very hard lesson that you need other people if you want to survive and grow.
Got it. And for context, what year was that, like the first year that you started selling on Amazon seriously?
Yeah, so textbooks was like 2008 and the Amazon dropshipping was 2009. And then we really started hiring people like 2010.
So like early days of Amazon.
Very early, yeah.
I am curious, what would be like your like first hire that you were like, man, I could really use a person for this?
So my first hire was customer service because again, we were drop shipping. We weren't doing FBA. So we had to handle all of our own customer service. So we're getting emails all the time asking for tracking numbers, returns, whatever. And I mean, that was your life if you were an Amazon seller. You had 24 hours to respond to an email or Amazon would ding you. And I had to hire people. And I remember that first week that I didn't have to answer customer service emails anymore. It was like, hallelujah.
That's such a great first hire. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
And so as you're scaling this, and because I know the FBA program wasn't the same in early 2010s as it is now, what was your split between like FBA and FBM? Were you doing all FBA? I know there was some drop shipping. Like, just how did the logistics side of the business kind of evolve over time as you were scaling it?
I never really did FBA outside of some returns we would send to FBA just to get them out of my dorm room. But it was all fulfillment by merchant, all drop shipping, all coming from manufacturers. Most of the products I never really saw or touched. And it's kind of funny now, like now I'm a dad and I have a 1.5-year-old and all the stuff I'm buying now is all the stuff that I used to sell back in the day. And I'm like seeing it and holding it and touching it and using it for the first time.
That's really
so funny.
Yeah.
Did you never want to go FBA, or was it just so easy with the drop shipping that you were just like, there's really no point?
Yeah, I mean, drop shipping was just such a great business model back then. I didn't have to buy anything up front. I didn't have to store anything. Like at the time, I was a college kid. I didn't have money to buy inventory. I didn't have any place to store inventory. So it worked out really well. Obviously, now it's a lot harder. But I mean, I kind of had different routes to go once the writing was on the wall that drop shipping wasn't going to be around for forever the way that I was doing it. I could have gone to FBA, done the freelance marketplace, which worked out pretty well for me, or start some kind of Amazon software because we had built some software at the back end by that point, by 2015, 16 that we were using. And we decided to go the freelance marketplace route.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. And I asked those questions, right, because the majority of our audience is people who are selling on Amazon. Got a lot of people who are multi-channel as well. And I'm sure, other people who might be involved in other businesses adjacent to Amazon. But I always like hearing that side of things just because obviously we like selling on Amazon. We've been selling on Amazon since 2017. That's our main bread and butter. That's the platform we know. But there's so much else outside of Amazon to do business wise. And some people, they might only sell on Amazon for a little bit and then go do a different business venture. So it's really interesting to hear of like how people developed in the Amazon space and then what changes they saw and either how they pivoted to stay in Amazon or what influenced their decision to then go to kind of a different business model. So kind of keeping on that theme, as you had scaled it up, but then you realized that drop shipping wasn't going to be sustainable in the way that you were doing it. 2 questions. So what made you realize that drop shipping wasn't going to be long-term? And then 2, why did you decide to do a different business instead of doubling down on FBA?
Yeah. So towards the end, it felt like we were going in circles. Like we would just get a notification from Amazon that they changed some policy, and then we would have to spend months fixing it, and then we'd get some other notification, and it just felt like we weren't building the business anymore. We had kind of peaked. We were just kind of adjusting to what Amazon sent us. Throw in some suspensions here or there that luckily we got resolved, but we kind of saw the downside of having all your eggs in one basket depending on Amazon. And keep in mind too, we weren't selling our own products. We didn't have any patents. We weren't building anything. So a lot of these manufacturers slowly realized, hey, we don't need Nathan Hirsch. We can just start our own Amazon store. We can just do our own e-commerce business. So being the middleman was great for a while, and it was a good cash cow and a great entrepreneurial experience. But unless we were going to come up with our own baby products or start making them or build our own e-commerce store or something like that, there really wasn't that much room to grow on the dropshipping side. So that kind of gave us the idea to kind of go in a different direction.
Got it. Okay. And so clearly hiring, that's a theme you've mentioned multiple times. Tell us how that led into FreeUp and what FreeUp became.
Yeah, I mean, we always just really loved hiring VAs from the Philippines. We built really great relationships during the Amazon days, and talking to other sellers. And keep in mind that first like 5 years of being an Amazon seller, there were no conferences, there were no Facebook groups, there were no networking events. Like you were just kind of there solo. But towards the end, all of a sudden, all these Amazon sellers are popping up. Everyone's learning how to sell on Amazon. As I'm talking to them, they're all having the same issue of hiring that I was having 5 years ago. So it was kind of like, hey, I have all these great Amazon VAs. Some of them are part-time, some of them are project-based, some of them are seasonal with busy season. Like, what if I gave you access to my people that I've already vetted? And that kind of became the FreeUp marketplace once enough people started reaching out to me asking for hires. So we saw the power of hiring in our own business and how it helped us scale and delegate and stop doing every little thing and focus on the bigger picture. And we started to help other sellers do the same thing. And really, we love just like the Upwork, Fiverr business model. Like they just went public at the time. We knew it was a big market for freelancers. There wasn't really anyone out there that was vetting freelancers before letting them on the platform. And there wasn't, like right now, there's lots of Amazon agencies and Amazon service providers. Back then, that didn't really exist. We were one of the, I don't know, first 50, first 20, first 10 even, I don't even know. So it was kind of a really nice niche of all these people are starting to sell on Amazon. They all need to hire people. There's no one really filling that demand. That's where we came in.
Super interesting. How long did you end up doing that business for?
FreeUp, we started in 2016 and we sold it around in November 2019.
Wow. Okay. Talk to us a little bit about if you feel comfortable with it, obviously, like numbers of that company. Like, when did you know it was like gonna like really be successful? What was like that pivotal moment?
Yeah, it blew up. I mean, we did $1 million in the first year, 5 in the second, 9 in the third, and 12 million in that last year before we sold it. So yeah, I think we knew in that like year and a half mark. It's funny. So after we kind of saw the writing on the wall with the Amazon business, I was all in on FreeUp. I was like, I want to do this. Connor, my business partner, he liked FreeUp, but he also had some other business ideas. So he was working part-time at FreeUp, part-time doing some other stuff. And I remember like a year and a half in, he's like, hey, can we meet up at a coffee shop? I thought he might be quitting on me to go like pursue something else. And instead he's like, dude, like, I think we have a great idea here. Like, I want to stop the other stuff, focus on FreeUp full time. And that's when I knew, because Connor and I together, like putting full effort into this, we thought would be powerful. And luckily it was. So that was probably when we were full, like, all right, we're on to something here.
That's really cool. And that's really exciting also. So like, at like your last year when, you're doing tons of revenue, like what was that decision to sell? Like, was there writing on the wall where you're like, oh my gosh, a lot of competitors coming up, we're going to have to put a ton of money here, let's just sell now? Like what was the mindset going into that?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't go into the last year being like, hey, let's sell this thing. One of our clients actually reached out and was like, hey, we don't start companies, we buy them. We want to get into the freelance space. We use FreeUp. We like FreeUp. We'd love to see if you guys would be interested in being acquired. And from there, like they ended up making us an offer that was life-changing. We had a tough decision to make on our side because we love the freelance space. We like the business. We were making good money. The business had no debt and all of that. So, I mean, at the time, like the economy was at an all-time high. We had grown it to 12 million, but we weren't doubling every year like we had done before. more competitors were popping up. So there were a lot more Amazon service providers than there were in that first year. And we got like a really good offer. So we kind of weighed all that together and we're like, hey, yeah, sure. Maybe we could grow this to 25 million a year or something. But we also saw the Amazon business where like once we peaked out, we really peaked out and we didn't want to make that mistake again where we had to shut it down and lay people off and all of that. So we also said, hey, if we're going to go through with this, there's no looking back. We have to make the best decision possible that we can at this time. And that was it. So we ended up going back and forth with them. It was a very long process, the most stressful 6 months of my life. No one's fault. Everyone was well-intentioned. Lawyers just back and forth, both sides protecting each other. Yeah. And during that, we're staying focused because they could pull out of the deal at any time. So we were like, hey, let's act like this deal is not going to go through so that we're not just ignoring this business for 6 months and have nothing to go back to. And our last 2 months before we sold it ended up being our best 2 months ever. So that was kind of a testament of Connor and I staying focused, even though it was a very stressful time.
That is cool. Absolutely incredible. And so, just, again, for context, because I like to think in timelines. So was there an overlap in you actively selling on Amazon to when you started FreeUp, or was it like a cold turkey, all right, we're done with Amazon and going to FreeUp?
There was an overlap, but it was a shell of the former business. It was like, hey, it's still running, it's still making some money, but it's not growing. We had gotten rid of a lot of people because, like I said, a lot of the manufacturers didn't need us anymore. So there was an overlap, but at some point we were just like, let's focus on FreeUp and stop selling on Amazon, and we shut it down.
Okay, got it. And so,
but the overlap was 6 months, maybe a year. I don't even think it was that much.
Okay, got it. So it was pretty quickly a transition full time into FreeUp. And can you give us a little bit more, just I guess of an insight into what that business model was, like how did it function? Because you briefly mentioned, right, like Fiverr, obviously that they had just gone public. That's a big competitor, but that you guys were vetting freelancers that came onto the platform before you let them on. Is that the main difference in like how your payment plan structured and like LTV with your clients and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, and FreeUp's still great. They're running, like they have a great network of pre-vetted virtual assistants. We have a great relationship with the new owners. I mean, the whole concept was anyone can go to Upwork and create a profile and start offering services. We were only going to let the best of the best on our platform and be very quick to kick people off if they hurt our clients in any way, didn't communicate, whatever it was. So we would get 1,000 applicants. We'd let in 10 of them. And yeah, the best of the best got on for skill, attitude, and communication. And they still do the same thing today. It's very hard to get on FreeUp. They only allow the best virtual assistants, the best freelancers. So that was kind of the concept, and also just heavily focused on e-commerce because that was our client base.
So you guys position yourself as like the luxury freelance place in the market.
Right. And in terms of like the business model, like it's not an agency where you're doing like monthly retainers. It's free to sign up. There's no minimums. There's no maximum. You can hire someone full-time, part-time, short-term, project-based, whatever. And you just do the billing through the platform. And they have a lot of protections there. If someone quits, they get you someone else, covers replacement costs. If there's an issue, you're not like stuck where if you just hire a solo freelancer and you can't get a hold of them, you can reach out to the marketplace and they'll jump in and help. So there's a lot of support to make sure you have a good experience.
Got it. Okay. And so does the marketplace makes money off of a percentage of transactions, or is there like an upsell towards a membership, or?
No upsell, no membership. I mean, I can't speak for FreeUp now. Maybe they changed some stuff.
Sure,
as far as I'm aware, it's
just
the same.
when you were doing it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There no upsells. All the billings through the platform. So if you say a VA is $10 an hour, you pay $10 an hour, and then the marketplace takes their percentage and pays the VA.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. That's an awesome business.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
Good business model for sure.
Yeah. I'm also curious to hear about your working relationship with Connor. So obviously me and Josh are business partners. A lot of our listeners, I think, are solo in their business. And me and Josh both say, like, if we didn't have each other, we both would have quit this business a long time ago. I don't know if you're familiar with the book Rocket Fuel. Talks about like the visionary and the integrator. I'm very much an integrator. Josh is very much a visionary. We didn't know that when we partnered, but it kind of worked out that way. So I'm just curious, like, what your partnership with Connor's like.
Yeah, it's not exactly rocket fuel, but Connor and I, we complement each other very well. I'm very much on like the sales and operations. He very much on the marketing and the SEO. And we're able to divide and conquer. And we both have things that we don't like doing. Like he doesn't like doing podcasts and being the face of stuff. He doesn't want to do sales calls. I don't like getting in the nitty gritty of setting up active campaign and stuff like that. So we complement each other very well in that regards. I always joke that Connor is my therapist. Like we're he's very like calm, cool, collective. Like I've never really seen him like angry or upset. And for me, I'm much more like rah rah. I get pumped up. I get like disappointed if things don't work out. I'm like, oh, the sky's falling. Like we're gonna take over the world. And he's just much more like even keeled. So he helps put me in my place a little bit as well. And but we have the exact same values. Like we're both just like frugal people, right? Like you won't see us just buying like nice watches and stuff like that. We both have stuff we care about, but for the most part, like we're investing in the S&P 500 and looking things like long term and just trying to be smart with our money. We care a lot about relationships and customers and taking care of people. Like we care about our reputation over anything else. Like we'd rather refund someone or just make it right. And we don't pretend to be perfect either. Like no matter what, and I don't even consider us veteran entrepreneurs. Like I'm 35, but no matter how deep you get into entrepreneurship, like you're always going to make mistakes. There's going to be hard lessons. And from our side, we just want to make it right. Like if we mess up, we're just going to try to make it right with all parties. Keep like the relationship intact and move on. And that's always been our strength. And even with like Free Up or the early days of Ecombalance, like when we started a bookkeeping business, we knew nothing about starting a bookkeeping business. And we told our initial clients like, hey, there's probably going to be bumps and learning curves and stuff like that. And bear with us. And if you're unhappy with something, like give us feedback. We want to make it right. And if we messed up or books were late early on or whatever it was, we gave people some credit and tried to keep everyone happy along the way. And that's kind of always been our mentality with all of our businesses.
Love that. I want to go back to the exit of Free Up quickly. So just give me a little bit more of an insight into what that 6 months was like getting prepared for an exit. Obviously, I'm sure that there are things that you can't talk about, so not asking for any proprietary details, but just like emotionally, from the book's perspective, dealing with legal while also trying to run the business. Like just what is it like going through your first exit?
Yeah. So, I mean, the good thing is we didn't really like prep to exit because we had everything ready to go. Like we hired a good bookkeeper from day one. So 4 years later, we had clean books going back 4 years. We had SOPs and team leaders that were in charge of updating SOPs. So when we went to sell it, we had 50 pages of SOPs that we could just turn over. And the buyers even said that like anytime they would send us questions, we would respond faster than any other deal they'd done because we had all the answers ready to go. We knew the business inside and out. We had all the reports and all of that. And we had a really strong team that could run the business pretty much without us. So from that side, like there wasn't that much like prep. But in terms of going through the 6 months, I mean, you're waking up every day being like refreshing your email. Like, is there going to be a letter from our legal team? Knowing that the deal could fall through at any second. You could get an email or a text that, hey, we're backing out. They're firing questions at us. We're firing questions right back because some of the best advice we ever got was to do due diligence on the buyers, just like they would do due diligence on you. You want to sell to someone who has the same values as you, who's not going to end up arguing with you down the line, who's going to pay you, who's going to treat your team well, treat your clients well, not hurt your reputation. So a lot of due diligence back and forth and negotiating over fine parts of the agreement. I think we were lucky that the high level stuff in the agreement, we were on the same page from an early side, but there's certain details that you're just negotiating on in the nitty gritty and compromises need to be made. So, I mean, and then you're focusing on the day-to-day of the business. So it was like Groundhog's Day every day. You're like slowly making progress, but you're like, are they backing out? Are we going through? Are we going back to running this business? And just on repeat until it's done. But at the end, we flew to Tampa, which is where their headquarters were. We got to meet them in person, sign the papers, get wired the money, and tell our team and kind of go from there. So it all worked out.
What was that like when the money hit the bank account?
Yeah, it was emotional. I mean, the hardest part about giving away or selling Free Up was just like our team. We really loved our team and we tried to take a lot of money from the sale and give it to them and make sure that they were taken care of.
That's awesome.
And yeah, we had to tell them and they were very emotional about it as well. But at the end of the day, we tried to set everyone up to be successful. And I think it worked out for everyone.
That's so sick. And I had one more question about that and it just escaped my mind. If I remember, we'll come back to it. So transitioning now into Ecombalance. So you've got Amazon business you started in the college dorm room, learned about hiring, learned about platform risk, if you will, pivoted to an adjacent business, but totally different business model, had a big exit, and now it's like, okay, what's next? And then you're like, you know what, bookkeeping company, that's what I want to do next. So how did you get to that from Amazon seller to freelance marketplace runner? Just how did you get from Amazon seller to freelance marketplace owner to bookkeeper company?
Yeah, I mean, entrepreneurship is kind of a funny path. You never really know where you're going to end up. Like if you had told me as a 15-year-old that in 5 years I'd be selling baby products on Amazon, probably wouldn't have believed you. Halfway through the Amazon business, if you had told me I'd be running a freelance marketplace, wouldn't have believed you. And same thing for bookkeeping. So for us, we like to just do a lot of brainstorming, look at what the market is. We have a certain checklist that we like when it comes to businesses. We like big markets, like I said, Upwork and Fiverr went public. That means there's a pretty big market for freelancers. In the bookkeeping space, you got Bench, how many bookkeeping and accounting firms there are. Like it doesn't take that much to be running a pretty good bookkeeping business. And that's what we like, big markets that we can take our small percentage of, put our own spin on it, usually around customer service and a really good client experience. We like reoccurring revenue. We like obviously like just the online space in general, keeping everything remote, not having inventory, things like that, that don't weigh us down. And I mean, post sale, like we're looking at like what can we do that's fun? Like I could take the next 20 years off, and assuming I don't blow it on fancy cars or something, like I'd probably be fine. But I also like love building businesses and want to have fun with it. And it's kind of a new way to approach business, which isn't that stressful, where I don't have to go out and get a real job if it doesn't work out, stuff like that. So, I mean, Ecombalance was years of brainstorming and crossing out a lot of bad business ideas before coming across that. And we have an SEO company as well, kind of the same thing. Connor's always done SEO for our businesses. So we did a lot of research to see if it would make sense to open up a business there. And we're always like brainstorming different ideas and seeing if we can find operators now to run them, because now we only start businesses if we have an operator in place that can actually run that business from day one.
Interesting. Okay.
Very, very cool. And
yes.
So when you started Ecombalance, talking about the operators, I'm assuming you guys were not doing the bookkeeping yourself. So was it, let's get a team in place, let's talk to other bookkeeping companies and learn from them, get our SOPs before we even reach out to the client? Or was it, let's just get the first round of clients as fast as we can, and then we'll just start building from there? What's the strategy to build from zero?
Normally it's let's get the clients as quickly as possible, be upfront and honest with them that they're beta testers, hook them up in some way, and then figure it out. That's kind of what we did with FreeUp. We kind of did the same thing on the Amazon business with Outsource School, which is my hiring course. We sold the course before we even made it, just to see if people were interested and kind of hook them up. But with bookkeeping, pretty hard to run a bookkeeping business without a bookkeeper. So step one, we had to find a reliable bookkeeper that we could trust, that could be the operator of the business. Like I kind of said, we found Shelia, who I think you've met.
Yep.
She's got 30 years of experience. She was trying to leave her current bookkeeping job. She had run a bookkeeping business before, which is something we always look for, but she didn't like all parts of that. She didn't like the sales, the marketing, the client onboarding. Like she wanted to do bookkeeping and build bookkeeping systems, which is perfect because that's what we were looking for too. So for that particular business, we hired Shelia, and like the initial call, kind of funny, the initial like coffee meetup we had, we were like, all right, what do we need to know about running a bookkeeping business? Start from zero. And she like laid out all the things we need, from pricing to client onboarding to the team to how it works every single month to catch up cleanup versus monthly bookkeeping. So, and then from there, like we're really there to support the operators. What team do you need? What software do you need? What do we need to handle on the marketing and sales side? So then we kind of dig in from there. But it's always like you need someone there as the infrastructure, as the operator, and then build around them and get those initial clients in.
So first step was for you then find the operator.
Right.
And was that just post a job listing on LinkedIn and start making a lot of connections, or was that someone from within your network?
Yeah, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, a whole bunch of places. And we just started interviewing people. And we kind of approached the bookkeeping as like there's no rush. Like if it takes us 10 months to find a bookkeeper or 2 months or a year and a half. Like, we can't start this business unless we have a really good controller. Like, these are people's finances. It's important. We're not trying to screw people over. Like, we need to do this right. And I forget how long it took. It was probably like 4 or 5 months of interviewing people before we came across Shelia.
How many interviews do you think you conducted?
I don't even know. So many. We didn't do too many like in persons because like a lot of people didn't even pass like our initial phone call interviews and stuff like that. So we probably did like 10 in person or 8 in person or something like that. But lots of phone interviews and emails back and forth and stuff like that.
Got it. Okay.
So how many clients do you currently have right now? Do you know? Or
Ecombalance just crossed like 150, something like that.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. And now are they like all online sellers or?
No, we got agencies and SaaS and other things in there as well. But they're almost all online businesses just from our marketing.
Yeah. Now, like if you were to give advice for someone who's like just starting, maybe like their Amazon business, and they're looking at a bookkeeper, what kind of like documentation are you guys looking for in terms of how to make sure that their books are good, come tax season and all that?
Well, my biggest advice is don't do your own bookkeeping. It's a terrible use of your time. That's time that you could spend growing your business. And 9 out of 10 times someone does their own bookkeeping, you're just going to have to pay someone to fix it and redo it later because it's not going to be correct. And bookkeepers are relatively cheap. Like I'm sure you can even find someone cheaper than us. But you're not going to go out of business because of your bookkeeping expense. You will go out of business if you don't understand your numbers and you're making bad decisions based on poor numbers. So I think veteran entrepreneurs understand that. Like for me, I would never start a business unless I had a bookkeeper in place from day one. In fact, the best business decision I ever made was hiring a bookkeeper day one of free up, because with our Amazon business, we were always behind on books. I was a young entrepreneur. I didn't know what I was doing. I finally got a bookkeeper in place like the last few years. But before that, I was doing it myself, hiring college kids, jumping on my CPA, and then free up day one bookkeeper. And it was the best decision I ever made. So that's my overall advice. And then keep it simple. Like QuickBooks Online or Xero are the only 2 softwares you can use. You need a connecting tool like Link My Books or A2X, one of those 2. And then you need a good bookkeeper that understands e-commerce. Don't be your only e-commerce client that your bookkeeper has. E-commerce is a whole different ballgame, and you need someone that really understands it. And with banks and credit cards, business bank accounts, not personal, keep business and personal separate. The less is more. Like you don't need 10 bank accounts to run your business usually. Like a few bank accounts, few credit cards. Make sure it allows view-only access for your bookkeepers. Keep it simple.
That's awesome.
Yep. Well said. That's Josh is cracking up because one of the questions that he had written down for us to talk about was just me when I was reaching out for a bookkeeper. So I did our own bookkeeping for maybe a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And I went to school for business. So I took a couple accounting classes, a couple finance classes. So I thought I was well equipped to do bookkeeping. 100% incorrect. But yeah, that first year, I remember when I was like filing taxes myself as well, it was just absolutely terrible. And not terrible in the fact that I like really screwed it up, but just in the amount of time that I'm like having to spend trying to figure out bookkeeping and all of that stuff versus actually running and growing the business. And then when I was looking for a bookkeeper, I remember I talked with you guys. There were a couple other like ecom bookkeepers that I talked with. And then when I settled with you guys and got on board it, and then once the catch up and cleanup was done and those monthly reports came in, it was just the amount of stress that fell off of my shoulders was just incredible. And I know for some sellers, like if you're just starting and you only got like a couple grand in revenue, maybe just a handful of transactions, you're not quite at that point yet when you're ready for a bookkeeper. But as soon as you're ready to afford it, like just from my own experience, I cannot recommend getting a solid bookkeeper enough, and one that understands e-commerce as well.
Yeah. Because we got one that didn't understand e-commerce the first year, Kosh, and maybe talk a little bit about like what that experience was like besides terrible.
Well, yeah, it's almost like doing it yourself, because you just have to explain everything to them because they don't understand it in terms of like, why are there so many transactions? What's a discounted gift card? Why is the revenue in your bank account not the revenue of your sales? Like just those simple understanding things when they're like, they just haven't dealt with it. It's not that they don't understand and they're not able to learn, but you essentially have to teach your entire business to them before they're even able to do your books.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to know if your bookkeeper understands e-commerce or not is if the top line of your income statement is the money that's going in your bank account, instead of the top line being sales and then all the different fees and stuff and then the money deposited. Like the average bookkeeper that doesn't understand e-commerce just won't get that.
Yep. I had a buddy, this was last year, that I met on Twitter, and we were just DMing, and he was like super stressed out. His business wasn't in a good place, or so he thought. And so we just hopped on a phone call, and he was like, dude, like I've been like super dialed in. You know, I'm always making sure I'm selling high margin stuff. I have good cash flow. I feel like there's always good money in my bank, but my bookkeeper told me I lost $25,000. And so I just started asking him some questions. And he was like looking at it. I think he had it in front of him or whatever. And I was like, I think it sounds like your bookkeeper thinks what your Amazon payout was your revenue. And that is wrong. And he was like,
Yep.
Oh.
It's a big red flag for sure.
Big red flag. Yeah. Yeah. So we've been using you guys as our bookkeeper for, I think, 2.5 years now, which has been awesome. Our experiences is great. Just tell me about what, if someone, for the Amazon seller who's listening to this, who's interested in getting in touch with you guys and looking to use you as a bookkeeper, what can they expect from working with Ecombalance?
Yeah, I mean, our service is pretty straightforward. Monthly bookkeeping, charge you on the 1st, books by the 15th each month. Income statement, balance sheet, cash flow on time every single month. If you go to ecombalance.com/report, you can get a sample of the report that you'll get from us each month. You get a dedicated bookkeeper. They're your bookkeeper. We do everything possible not to switch bookkeepers on you. They respond within a business day at all times. And you've got a team leader and controller above them that review your books before they go out to you. They're there if your CPA comes in with any high-level questions. There's always someone higher up that you can talk to. And I mean, the real cool thing about us is like it's built by sellers, by entrepreneurs. We have a great team of bookkeepers, but everything we do around the bookkeeping, from sales, marketing, customer service, onboarding, systems, processes, is just designed to value your time at the highest possible level. So that's what we try to separate ourselves from other bookkeeping firms that are run by bookkeepers.
Yep. And I absolutely love getting those monthly reports. You guys have made some updates to them over the years too, just to make them more in depth and almost look kind of like a dashboard. So you can like really see the high level numbers of your business at a quick glance, which is just really helpful for me as we're making decisions on what we want to do with our finances.
Appreciate it. We're always trying. We love feedback too. And if anyone signs up from this podcast, mention the podcast and you'll get 2 free months of bookkeeping on me.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Yep. And there will be a link in the description that you can click as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Nathan, where can people go find on the internet if they want to interact with your socials, if you have any?
Yeah, Nathan Hirsch on LinkedIn. Check me out there. NathanHirsch.com if you want to check out my website.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you for listening today. If you got value from this episode, give it a like and subscribe to Ecom Unlimited so you can stay updated on all of our new content. And we will see you on the next one. Peace.
Thanks, guys. Bye.